Yes, Mama. I seem very proud of what you're doing. All right. We're going to get my man Adika on. I want to shout out to, of course, Brandon42 for always putting it up. See Grant, what's up? Drunk Sis. I'm sure Alex is somewhere in the building, Brother Grimm. If not, shout out to Brother Grimm. All right, Adika, are you there, my brother? Adika, calling Adika.
Yes, I am.
Finally.
What's up, man?
Yes, finally, my brother. I want to thank you. I can't thank you enough for your patience. You know, we run through the whole gamut of Negroes and everything we got going on here. So, you know, I didn't get a chance to give you that.
It was good information, though. It was good information,
good.
So it was good to listen.
Good. This is my brother Adika Butler. Adika Butler. Like I said, I knew him from New York. He was sitting next to me, right in the same places in the buildings for all the Bobbies, all the Phils, all the early stuff before the YouTube days. So he's very big on information and has the right to talk about this consciousness and educate people because he's been through a whole heap of stuff. He's not a YouTube entity. He's not a blog talk entity. Even though he may be on these shows, he wasn't born on these shows. He was born in the bosom of consciousness. And he has a little company called Mind Glow Media, right? Am I saying it right? Mind Glow Media?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. Tell us about Mind Glow Media and what's your goal? What's the mission statement?
The mission statement for, Mind Glow Media is to open eyes and enlighten minds. You know what I mean? It's something that I had, initially conceived, somewhere around maybe 2005 or so. I didn't really do anything with it. I just wrote the name down in a notebook one day, and I was like, yeah, Mind Glow Media. I might, do something with that somewhere down the line. But, at the time I was more engaged in other forms of media, coming out of college, I was, involved in, freelancing for a few hip-hop magazines, Scratch Magazine, Double XL, I contributed to those entities. But, most of my work, at that time was mainly for a publication that I actually, was a founding member of, and that was Where It's At Magazine, which covered a lot of Caribbean entertainment, mostly the whole reggae dancehall scene. So anybody can think of who has been prominent and been a mainstay in the whole dancehall music, scene, whether it be, Beanie Man, just different people, Shaggy, Sean Paul, all of those big names, particularly from the early 2000s and mid 2000s. I was doing interviews and had writers doing interviews with these names. But even when I was doing all of that, I was always deep into the consciousness, not just from a standpoint of reading the books and going to the lectures, but just going through different modalities to give myself authentic firsthand experiences, pertaining to what I was taking in at these lectures, what I was getting from these books. And, I always sought to find a way to kind of bridge the gap, so to speak. So even when I was doing the entertainment, journalism, with my magazine, we always got artists to talk on things that kind of went beyond the image that they sought to project out to the audience. People got a chance to see that some people who they thought was just on some thug shit was a little bit more thoughtful than they may have expected. Some people who seemed kind of stern had actually a sense of humor, and they had a normal family life that you may not expect. I remember, doing an interview with Lady Saw, and at the time she was literally cooking dinner for her family. You know what I mean? That's not an image that people who are familiar with her would generate, but that's the type of journalism we was doing, and I was always trying to bring that aspect while at the same time explore the spiritual, but do it in a way where it was still engaging and entertaining. I had a column back in that publication called Roots, Wisdom, and Culture, where I explored different aspects of the spiritual sciences, ancient history, but I did it in a way where, I would inject humor. I would, like involve like a lot of like colorful writing, because I didn't want it to have like a academic tone, at that time. Like it was more about like, just making it where, the average person who may not even be familiar with the subject matter can, be exposed to it and say, hey, that's something I might want to look, deeper into. And so I did that. But after a while, I just started to feel as if, that type of subject matter needed its own platform. So I revisited the whole Mind Glow Media idea and concept in 2009. I was like, you know what, I'm going to just start a blog, not necessarily to like, like generate any type of machine around myself. It was really just the fact that I love to write. You know what I mean? Like people even now might be seeing me on Facebook every now and then with my long ass, status messages and shit. Like something come into my mind, I just, write it, send out a Facebook message, or I might even just, like type something for myself and just hold on to it. There's a lot of things I've written that, has never seen the light of day. Also working on a book, over the last few years, different things have come, my way that is kind of like, put off, the release of the book. But, I'm still working on some things, and I'm glad that I never put it out, because I feel like some of the most profound revelations that I've ever had are actually like, like coming to me like right now, or even over the past year. I've been through like a lot of profound spiritual experiences. I mean, I always have been, but I feel like the past year has been particularly, a challenge in different respects. Not in a sullen way, but just in a way that makes you recognize the power and the reach that the spirit realm has, on all of us. Like last year in February, I lost, my mother. Well, I didn't lose her; she transitioned. And
sorry to hear that, because I know that feeling, but she's on that other side now.
Exactly. And it was very profound for me, because I remember, when I experienced, her transition, it brought me back to when I was, like a young child, because my mother is actually, the first person who really exposed me to, like spirituality on that level. You know what I mean? Like she used to set up altars in the house and stuff. She wasn't like a practitioner of a specific African tradition, but she was a reader. She was a thoughtful woman, and she, like explored like a lot of different things, as are like a lot of people who are on the call tonight are doing. So she exposed me to a lot. Gave me my earliest books on like ancient Egyptian history and spirituality, and she and I really had a powerful relationship. Like we talked about like so many different things, and I used to say to myself as a kid, well, dag man, I love my mother, but eventually one day she's gonna pass away, and I don't even know how I'm gonna deal with that. You know what I mean? And through experiencing her transition last year, it made me realize how much work I had done, on myself. In the sense that I could, like go through the experience and keep a level head, be there for my younger sisters who are also grieving, my dad and different people around me, and just trying to be like a stable force and a sounding board for everybody to share their thoughts and feelings. So like this spiritual work is something that is extremely rewarding, but you may not even necessarily see the rewards as you're going down the path. It's only when you experience like those landmarks in over the course of your life, that you realize like, like this is what the work is really about. And it even goes farther than that, as far as like just finding the true divinity that's, within you, not relying on external forces. You always have people who influence you, but just getting really in tune with the things that make you unique, the things that make you an individual, and just loving that and enhancing that. that's why, like, now when I see, like what's going on over the last few years with, the quote unquote conscious community, it's been, kind of, just unnerving, because I remember there was a time when people like really embraced individuality, and if you thought a different way, people saw that as like, wow, that's great. Like, I remember myself.
That's what made you conscious, right?
Exactly.
That's what made you conscious.
Exactly. Like, I remember watching, like lectures and buying the VHS tapes, not the DVDs, not going to the YouTube, but
VHS. Right, there you
VHS tapes, man. Like, I would see Tefiru, like building on like comic books and, like just ancient mythology and the whole Moorish paradigm.
Right, and that computer blues that he did, where he showed the Great Pyramid is laid out just like a motherboard. So the idea of the computer and the motherboard is stolen from the Great Pyramid, which means the Great Pyramid was a computer, and which means that shit ain't new. They got everything from how even the word computer is Pata, which just means black father or black father or black house.
Exactly.
So when you was actually learning shit, you know what I'm saying, that made you look at the world different. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I remember, like, watching you with the Panic Project. Like, I remember, that was a turning point. Like, I remember I heard you say something a few years ago where you were like, you look back on, like, your old material and you're like, damn.
Right, oh, my God. Terrible,
and I can relate to that with my own work. But personally, when I was exposed to that particular series, like, that was, like, a real major experience for me as well, because,
really?
I've seen, Bobby Hemmett bring like the humor, to the lecture circuit, and, Phil Valentine would as well. But when I saw your tape, like, I was just dying, and I was like, yo, like, people are really expressing their individuality, and it made me look at it like, oh man, like, maybe I need to step on the scene and, do my own thing, at some point. And me and Shabazz was talking about that for a while, but we just never got to it. But it was just like a really beautiful time, in the respect that, everybody had a unique style. Everybody had a unique personality, and they were just sharing their personal findings. And that's all it was, and that's all that was needed. And, that's all
that was needed.
Yeah, so, it's kind of gotten away from that, but, there's still a lot of people who keep that spirit alive. Like, I was listening to what y'all were talking about, like, before I came on, about, like, experiencing the divinity in the body through the yoga. And I think that is so profound. It's simple, but it's very profound, because, a lot of people...
simple but clever.
Yeah, they look at it, like spirituality is something where, something, is invoked. But, a lot of times you can evoke something, and that's a divine experience as well. And you can experience true spirituality within your five senses. Things that you smell can bring about a divine experience. So if you light the right incense, you know what I'm talking about. You can go out to a landscape that's beautiful, and that, reinforces, like a sense of the divine in you. You can experience sensations when you're making love to your lady. You know what I mean? That's a spiritual experience. So I think that what was powerful about that whole discussion is that a lot of people don't recognize that spirituality and the body are not necessarily mutually exclusive things. Like, you experience spirituality through your body, So that's where I'm at, man. Like, I just love the individuality of this whole journey, and I appreciate people who keep that spirit going.
Yes, indeed. Like, Brother Azazel texted me the other day, and he was like, yo, look, man, you still smoke cigars? I'm smoking a little bit, because me and him used to smoke a lot of cigars. And he said, yo, I'm just going to send you some cigars. I want to thank you for that last lecture. I just enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, because my approach, and I could see, because I really enjoyed that lecture too. I didn't know it was going to turn into 5 hours of ranting, but, because I'm dropping science in it, but I'm making such a joke of everybody's deep approach to this movie, Get Out, when it was just a movie. It was just a scary movie. It was what it was. We look at the source of where it came from, and they're trying to make it like it's the Matrix again. So as I explained the difference between decoding and encoding, which is still nothing wrong with adding or encoding a movie with when you see the symbol and your interpretation of it. But let's not pretend we was decoding something that man was saying. He was saying what he said. So with that approach, it was funny to me. So that entire take is absolutely funny. You know, I'm stirring the tea throughout like she was, is absolutely hilarious. So as is this, I just want to thank you for just making me laugh. You know what I'm saying? Because you see all of these guys who take themselves seriously. And one of the first understandings of consciousness is not to take yourself seriously. And you see these self-important guys talking, which they're not really teaching or sharing information. It's just telling you or displaying or performing what they know. And I'm sitting there going, I know the book you got it from. Why don't you save us all time and just give us a book? They're not giving out any books, saying any information, because what they're trying to say is, I'm smarter than you because I can read, and if you don't know where it's from or the book to read so you can regurgitate it to spit it back, then you're gonna have to follow me. So consciousness, and what I like about what you do, was about enlightening the person and handing over the power. If you have a realization from your perspective and you find it enough to share, the realization of what you have realized, you're trying to get that person from their perspective to have an aha moment, not to let them know, wow, I'm just so deep. And you're always going to be following me because I'm deep. It was about empowering each other, or at least putting out the information for someone to empower themselves. So you do a lot of great writing, and, you know, I've noticed it over the years. You'll drop writing, you know what I'm saying? You'll drop it in my Pandemonium group. So if people in the Pandemonium group, you'll see him in there. He's in there. He drops it on his page. He does it on Facebook. And it's a lot of deep writing. So tell us about some of the things from Mind Glow Media that you've been dropping over the years and some of your favorites.
Oh, man, that's a good question. Damn, it's funny. It's a funny question because, like, you know, over time, you know, like, like there's just been like just different pieces that take on precedence for that particular time period. But just to you single out a few, I think, a lot of those pieces that I've done, under various titles, which explore the Lucifer mythos, stands among, my favorites. And I think, the reason being is I feel like that particular story is in many ways, like an explanation of, our history as a people. It's kind of like, looking at, Black history through the rear view, mirror of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have this angel who was supposedly, like this bright and morning star. He was brilliant and beautiful and this and that. He was the man. And then he fell from grace. You know what I mean? So there's just like a lot of different elements. I get into more detail in terms of, like specific nuances of the story. But that's one of my favorite themes. I also enjoy the various angles I've taken on, like the Moorish paradigm. Me personally, I've never been like a follower per se of, like the Moorish Science Temple, but I've always had like a great affinity for the Moorish legacy. I was like told stories about the Moors when I was a kid. Like my dad, he'd be driving me to school, and he'd be telling me stories about the Moors invading Italy. I mean, I didn't really know about the Spain part. I learned about that later through reading. But I remember me as a kid and him telling me about the Moors in Italy and, Hannibal Barca, like invading Rome. And I would, as a kid, be like, yo, man, this sounds like interesting. Because, as a little kid, like you grew up, watching like these Conan the Barbarian movies and the Mighty Hercules. So when he was telling me these stories, it kind of like was in that vein, and I would just imagine, like what was going on at that time. And then I had like a crazy experience when I was about 7 years old. I was laying in, bed one night, and I saw this man wearing like this long white gown. The guy was like over 6 feet tall, like, and he was like, he had his back to me, and then he looked to the left, and then he turned around and he was looking at me, and he had like this, I forgot what the headdress is called, the name eludes me, but, like the headdresses that, the men wear in, Arabia. And the guy was really dark, he had a big beard, and he was walking over to my bed, and he extended, like one of his arms, like to grab me, and I remember pulling the sheet over my face, and my heart was racing, and I pulled the sheet down, and all I saw was smoke. You know what I mean? And I never forgot that. Like, that was like a vision that I had as a kid. And I mean, people might be saying like, "Yo, this guy is crazy. It's bullshit." But that was like something that happened to me when I was 7 years old, and I never forgot when I went into this black bookstore. It was they called A&B Books. It was downtown Brooklyn. And I saw this huge poster of this book. I think it was called The Moors in Spain, or like something dealing with the Moors, and it had a picture of this well-known like 18th or 19th century painting called the Moorish Chief. And I remember seeing that image.
What you talking about? I remember the poster in there. And he had the turban. You see, I remember it was in that store, A&B downtown. Right off of the Always Square Mall in that couple of streets down, and they had the big Morris, that dude just looking to the side with the turban. Nice.
Yeah. So I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Yo, that's the dude who like I've seen in my dreams." You know what I mean, or my experience, and I just like, this was like a reading as much as I could, after having that experience, after having that vision. And it was me having that, like, the more I read, the more I was like, man, like, I really identify with all of this. You know what I mean? Like, you hear about, like, this concept.
Let's make this clear. The stuff you was reading was about the historical Moors, as opposed to what they know as Moors today.
Right.
Am I getting that right?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. I want to make sure we get that right. What you delved deep into was the historical Moors, that went to Europe and raised it up, as opposed to the newer Moors started by Noble Drew Ali.
Right.
Okay, I just want to establish that.
Yeah, that was my only reference point. Like, I didn't even know who Noble Drew Ali was. I mean, like, when I learned about him, I was appreciative of, like, the legacy that he left behind and the things he did here in America. I think I first, heard about him in a Ghostface rhyme off the Triumph, off the Wu-Tang Forever, album. But I didn't really know who he was, and I found out about him later. But my focus was on, like, the historical Moors and looking at, like, how they birthed the Renaissance, the different advancements they made in the sciences, the arts, the culinary arts, just different things. It was like just the embodiment of what people would, call like a Renaissance man. I was reading all of this, and I was like, like, that's me, like, that's my spirit. Like, when I think about myself as an adult, like in his 30s and 40s, and mind you, I was in my late teens at this point. As I think about myself as a man in his 30s and 40s or whatever, like, these are the type of guys that I'm imagining, you know what I mean? Like, wearing fly clothes, you know what I mean? Got a beautiful bee on your arm, you know how to cook, you know the sciences, you know how to write, that type of thing. So I really identify with that, and I use that as a, like a means of, like, motivating myself towards self-improvement. But there's a lot of different things, that, I've gotten into. Like, I've written, like, short stories, like short erotic stories that kind of incorporate, like, metaphysical, spiritual concepts. Like I just like try to like cover the whole gamut. Like my background, my upbringing, you know, how I was raised, like I was exposed to like a lot of different schools of thought. So like that kind of like shows up in my writing. Like you'll see the Moors there, but you'll also see Rastafarianism. You'll also see a little bit of the Nation of Islam. You'll also see, you know, elements of, you know, Western occultism, particularly in like my older work. And, you know, African, you know, spirituality is all over the place. So, you know, like that was my mindset. That's been my mindset because my attitude is I find value in everything that is valuable. Like I'm not married to any idea. I'm just married to what works and brings forth like a greater understanding.
Now, this is actually how we all should be thinking, because this is an expression of actual melanin when you understand the true science of it in terms of chaos. And chaos is forever changing. It's never stable. The only rule in the universe is constant change. So to technically be in the spirit, you have to be in the mood or in the mindset of change. You know, that stable stability is really death compared to what we are. So when you join that group, or you just be stern in your belief system, whatever it is, that's actually death based upon, or arrested development based upon spirituality and the melanin. So I'm feeling you in where you in how you going with this thing here. You know what I'm saying? Your writing seems quite spiritual. So first we need to get out the way this. If people wanted to contact and see your writing, where would they go? Let's make sure we get this contact thing going.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. You know, people would log on to thirdymax.net. You know, I was under thirdymax.com, but I kind of like parked that domain because I have like plans to do something else with that. So right now, you know, like the thirdymax.net, you know, that's my blog where I literally have like hundreds of blogs. All of them were written by me, coming out of my own head. Some of them, you know, are references, you know, like to like other works that other people have done that I want to like highlight and bring people's attention to. And, you know, the majority of it is, you know, just things that, you know, I'm thinking about on a day-to-day basis. You know, like something might be on my mind, and based upon, you know, the frequency in which it's on my mind, I'm like, I just start writing. And if it, you know, is engaging enough and it's powerful enough, and I get like a certain type of charge from it while I'm writing it, then, you know, like I'll put it on the blog and I'll share it with other people. And it's really been a powerful experience because it's, you know, linked me to like all kind of people across the globe. Like when I first started the blog, like, you know, my intention, like I said, was just to write and, you know, just control that platform and, you know, like have it as a way where I can share my thoughts with people on the World Wide Web, where it could potentially be read by, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And, you know, me just like investing my energy into it over time, you know, like the readership just continued to grow, and I started getting responses from, you know, people all over the world. I've gotten, you know, like emails from like Grammy-nominated artists. You know, I've, you know, gotten emails from, you know, people in the conscious community. I've developed relationships from people, you know, just from the blog, you know, and exploring, you know, the realm of spirit, you know, spiritual psychology, and all of these different things. And it really shows you how all of us, we may have different personalities, different strengths, but we're all kind of like have like a lot of the same questions, you know what I mean? And we're trying to find ourselves
one divine mind.
Exactly. Yes.
One divine mind. Let me
one
add,
mind with many different manifestations.
Right, many different perspectives that come together as one, like Voltron.
Right.
I want to be clear. Third Eye Max, MAX.net.
Yeah. Let me spell that. Yeah, that's Third Eye Max. Third Eye, you know, EYE Max MAX.net. So you know.
Okay, thirdeyemax.net. That's the site. That's Adika. Adika Butler. So y'all need to know the name. For years, I've been calling that. I was in the train station. What up, Adika? He said, look, nigga.
Yeah. People call me Adika. Yeah. Like
it took me a minute.
I'll get voicemails from people like we may be sharing emails for a while, and they finally leave a voicemail because they want to talk or whatever.
Right.
Like, yo, what up, Adika? This is so and so.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I gotta let them
know. And you're usually stern in that too, because I seen you at the train. You had to straighten me out. I remember the day you straightened me out. You were on the 3 train at Utica. Yo, Adika. What up, Adika?
Damn, you remember that?
He said, I remember that. You said, actually, it's Adika. I said, Adika? How the hell we get here? So I was like, damn, but Adika sounds it just flows. So no Adika. I said, that's more interesting and much powerful. Is there science to that name that we don't know? Tell us about your name, Adika.
Yeah, that was my name that my mother gave me. That's literally my government name, Adika Butler. Adika means the first. I later learned that among the Ashanti, Akan people of modern day Ghana, like Adika Enfo actually means the first people. You know what I mean? Who the earliest ancestors, like a stellar origin, who first seeded the planet. So that was like a beautiful thing for me to find, based upon me coming across this Ghanaian author who wrote this book about the connection between ancient Ghana and the Canaanites over in the Middle East, So that's something that was interesting. What was the author's name? Akan Ba, and I think the name of the book is called Revelation. People can look that up on Amazon, but but that's my name, Adika. It's a Ghanaian name, which is Ghana being in West Africa, and that's the
nice. See, so Adika ain't nothing but a goddamn jail in Jersey. So you gotta cut that out. You gotta cut that out. That's brother Adika Butler, thirdimax.net. This is where you can get a hold of his work, his writing. When I tell you his writing, professional, spectacular, and something you need to get into. Like I said, he gives us a taste every once in a while in the Pandemonium group. He's in the Occult Lectures group. He should be in the Culteric Teas. If not, I'm going to make that happen because he's an asset to us. You understand what I'm saying? This writing is what you already heard. This ain't just a nigga running his mouth. This is a spiritual thing he's put in the paper. So I want to get into some of the types of things. I want people to understand what you're dealing with, what you're talking about. Now, let me ask you this question. Have you done work in your writing where you're decoding particular, let's say, a movie or events or a situation, shit that's going on, that they made a big thing? Do you decode what's happening behind the scenes or what you have extracted from a particular situation or a particular movie or something, let's say? Do you do stuff like that?
I've done a little bit of that. Sometimes it hasn't always been like a movie that is fresh in the movie theater, but like a lot of stuff that reach, has like a certain resonance with me. Like I'll point out different elements of that. One of my favorites that I like to go to, and I do like a little more detail in my upcoming book. I'm not going to give the title of that book yet, but people in the group, the Pandemonium family, I'll be sharing what that's going to be all about when the time comes. But I've always been a big fan of the Transformers cartoon series. So I remember when they came out with the movie in 1986. That was like a major thing, and there was a lot of deep, spiritual concepts in that film. So that's something that I've broken down at different times over time.
Right.
And, more recently, I remember I did, a breakdown of, the Thor movie, the first one that came out, I think, back in, when was that, 2011? and I was making a connection between the Norse gods and their mythology, and I was showing like the cross reference between what I saw in the movie when, you know, like Thor was kicked out of heaven, and I was relating that to aspects of Yoruba mythology. You know, when you're talking about Ifa, you know, like their pantheon of deities, the Orisha, you know, with Ogun and Shango, and, you know, I was showing the the correlation between that, because I thought that Thor, in many respects, you know, like he had a lot of same qualities with Shango and even Ogun in some respects. So I thought it was ironic when they had, you know, like scenes that kind of like were literally like out of the stories of, you know, the Orisha, you know, Parakis, which are the sacred stories of that tradition. So, you know, that's, you know, something that I've done. There's probably a few others that don't come to my mind right now. Like I've literally like written like hundreds of blogs. And, you know, like most of them are pretty long. So, you know, people might, you know, be familiar with some others, but, you know, in terms of what comes to my mind right now. Like,
comes to mind, right? And that's cool. See, this is why I think this is so important. When we have a brother who can take mythology that you may be familiar with or are easily familiar with based upon names you heard or just the color of the skin, and able to cross-reference it or compare it to or show you that it's the same as all mythologies, because they're talking about symbols and these stories are being told over and over, just the names and the faces are changed so it can fit the psyche of the people who are telling that story. But it's originally from us. So for him to take back Norse mythology is a master stroke. You get what I'm saying? Because we need to understand with Norse mythology, you have white people who the Nazis, for instance, with this pure blood Aryan, used Norse mythology as a system, you could say, of pure blood. This is in pride. You get what I'm saying? So they raised them up through pride. Even the name like Vaughn, which is a German name of dignity, like Sir, you know what I mean? Sir such and such, is Odin. You get what I'm saying? So they look at these guys as pure. That's why they lost their mind when Idris Elba was chosen to play Heimdall. You know, even Thor is a redhead ginger in the mythology. You know what I mean? In the true mythology, he's not a blonde; he's a redhead. Exactly. And so, I mean, all of this Norse mythology, Scandinavian mythology, same thing, comes from the Dutch, the Norse people, the Swedish people, and the German people moved to Germany, but they claim that original Norse blood. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple in that one area.
And you know what's funny about it is that they literally claim, like, you can go back to some of their historians, not from the last few centuries, but going back to, like, the 11th century, 12th century, where they actually say that the earliest occupants of, you know, those lands were black. Those
areas, right. Well, black, right.
And these are their words. They're not like commentaries from modern historians. These are from the people who lived at that time.
Who lived at that time. Makes sense. See, that's why we need smart brothers like that to put this, like Adika, man, to put this stuff together on another level. That's the beauty of this shit. The builds that we used to have, how we used to build as conscious people. You can depend on the next man to have such a body of conscious work that when y'all sat together, shit became real. It was never a debate or never our idea of a debate. It was true building. You can talk or know your aspect of it, and when he brought his aspect, his shit came together like motherfucking Voltron. I miss those days, you know what I'm saying, where somebody actually has something to offer, you know what I'm saying? They can point you in direction, give you a book, and tell you something. Miss those days. That's why, like I said, y'all need to understand, get into this Adika Butler shit right now. You know what I'm saying? It's going to expand an aspect of your understanding. Go check his website, thirdeyemax.net.
Another thing that I, always strive to do is I never try to make, people may assume that based upon the volume of my work, but I never try to convey the idea that I'm the be-all and end-all to the subject matter I'm speaking on. I make numerous references to other people, other books, other lecturers that people can pay attention to and get even more information that I can even offer, because I'm not a specialist in every area, but I can direct you to the person who may be that, so that you can get a deeper understanding. So I think that's a lost thing that, like a lot of people don't do anymore. Like I noticed, people who are more holdovers from like that earlier era, like there was something that was common, but a lot of people don't give credit anymore. Like they feel like it takes away from them to say, yo, I learned this from so and so, and if you want to learn more, you can, find out more from them. It takes away from them.
Get Walter Williams' book, or check out Brother Phil for this, or check out Brother
or even
Bobby
one of your
for
peers.
that.
You know what I mean? Like they'll do it with a person who's dead, but they won't do it with somebody who's their age. It's competition. Yeah.
There you go. And that's like you said, something I missed, because it made your studies much more complete. When, this idea that you have to rely on yourself in Wikipedia and YouTube to be this complete thing, it was like, no, it was a true family, and it was a true small group, that everybody was a specialist because everybody was unique. And what I found in my classes, and I don't know if you find it in your writing as well, that you find a lot of informed black people based upon so much information, but just do not know how to apply it. You know what I'm saying? And because they don't know how to apply it, when they could take your reading if they knew how to apply it, and it could take them to a whole nother level, because I can clearly hear this is not just you just spitting. This is coming from your spirit. You get what I'm saying? And as you explain your childhood, it's coming from your spirit. So this is something that's beneficial in terms of you guys want to read. You guys need to read stuff like this.
Right. It's very. I heard you say something earlier in the broadcast about the opportunity to really teach your people spirituality. Like I derive value from teaching all people things that are valuable, but particularly my people. You know what I mean? Like there's something really stirring and warming in my soul to be able to do that. And I can't tell you how humbling it is when you see the brilliance in the people that come to you, and the ability and the insight that they have. And it's really, just by doing this blog alone, like one of the biggest lessons I've had is that, some of the most brilliant, brightest people are not the people necessarily who are in front of the audience giving the lectures. You know what I mean? A lot of times it's the people in the audience, but the people in the audience feel like they're not that, because they may not be as articulate with it as whoever it is that they admire, but they're so far more ahead in their thinking and their approach to the material, So I realize that a lot of people don't give themselves credit. Right.
There was a time where it was imperative for anybody who did choose to stand in front of you to understand that they need to sit in that audience as well. It is just as important to be the student and the teacher. Now what we see is everyone is so dying to teach black people something, they're not listening and see what's going on. I just had the realization, like Brother Elijah, let's just take, and his brother Ken, somebody who took my class, Drunk Sister, who's in there, Alex, and she's the craziest girl ever. Courtney, Drunk Sis, Fairy Linus, who's in here, who is the sister Ty, her husband Grim, and I'm sure I'm missing more. My girl Kiana, when these people come around, like we'll have parties and we'll hang out. It's like I don't want them ever to leave.
Right.
And, I'm like, that's corny. And then I'm sitting there going, oh, because I just really caught on. I'm sitting amongst gods. I'm sitting amongst special motherfuckers. Right. And we live as one. So I don't want them to leave. Like Aleem will come, man. I'll be like, man, stay for a fucking week, man. You know what I'm saying? Just chill out. I never want them to leave. I said, because these are gods. And it's humbling. It's the greatest thing. You're witnessing God. You know what I'm saying? And they're amazing for what they are. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Azazel will text me. I'm like, yo, I'll talk forever. You're so happy to even interface. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy that you're on the line. Just patient, humble. You know what I'm saying? Waiting on the line. It's like you're supposed to do it last week, and I couldn't do the show last week. Oh, I'll come next week. Humble. You just dealing amongst so much advanced people, and if most of us would look that way, you will see we could actually sustain ourselves. The answers are within us, and and once you see who us really is, that everyone around you is these gods, especially if they're interested in this information, the answers are within them too. You don't always have to be telling them something, you know what I'm saying? Like I see my man Elias is motherfucking amazing. I enjoy his company. I enjoy when he's over. After this, I'm like, nigga, let's go get something to eat. That's the greatest part of this goddamn thing you're doing. Just to dwell amongst the gods. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just the calmness, the humbleness that you're witnessing. Just good motherfuckers. Just good motherfuckers. And the ego now, because YouTube has made monsters. You know what I mean? You don't. It's really missing the true message of what consciousness was. The criteria for what we were sitting in front of each other, even trying to share information, is not even a issue. No one in consciousness, everyone in consciousness, their badge was their award ribbon was they left religion. Now, how do we get to the point where we are arguing about religion? You know what I'm saying? And which one is the best and which one started first? That would never be a thing. Islam, bless their souls, had no place in this shit. Not even a word. You do what you do. You know what I'm saying? And we'll speak about the Moors' role in Islam and the Sufis and all the rest of that. But the religion itself, the fruit of Islam was not on the stage with us having this conversation. It is true the conversation would be beneath us. You get what I'm saying? And not from the perspective of the ego, but from the perspective of it's just nothing nobody wants to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Was Allah in Egypt? No one cares. Perhaps he was. But still, but worshiping like him like you are wasn't what it was about. And if they was doing it then and you're doing it now, great. Have at it. But you cannot force that intelligence on anybody else. And in that old-timey understanding or one aspect of consciousness, if we can grab that, I think that the consciousness the most people would expand just based upon the mentality. What I find myself now yelling on YouTube, joking around, is really more talking about the mentality. There's really no more science. the mentality you should adapt, you know what I'm saying, for consciousness to even get to a place where you are finding light. You know what I'm saying? They're finding information, and they're confusing information with light. You know what I'm saying? Information is very startling, same way I would imagine it feels in a woman when the nigga starts orgasm. But it don't mean you're going to have a baby yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a good chance. You know what I mean? Let the nigga go raw. It's a good chance, but it's the gestation period that we're missing. You know what I'm saying? So we're writing like you're doing. That's perfect because it wasn't my first love running my mouth. You know what I'm saying? I found what I came here to do. But originally, that's what I was doing, the blogs. You know what I'm saying?
I remember that. That's what I remember because I used to get copies of
MySpace and the blogs. Right, MySpace and the blog, and it was satisfying doing that. And eventually, it actually gave me the confidence to know I can actually do a book. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, I don't know where you're at on the level of your book, but in terms of editing and formatting, listen, Courtney, man, I gave it to her from a Word. She turned that from a Word document into something in my hand. That's what she does. She does that for a living, freelance as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if anything in that area you're missing, but since you're a writer, you may have this thing on lock. You know what I'm saying? But if ever, something in that area, I'll make that happen if you need to meet up. But I would love to see a book from you. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to see a book. In fact, I think it's overdue.
Yeah, really, really. Like, people be running up on me, when I go to different functions, every now and then. They'll be like, "Oh man, yo, when's the book coming, man? I see you with the blogs, but when's the book coming?" And it's coming. There's been just different things I've been, doing over the course of the last few years. Between it's funny because I initially expected to put the book out back in 2012, but I just felt man, it's not right, and I kept coming with a lot of information that was really really strong, you know what I mean? At least at that time I felt, and I just felt like it was a time to just put it down in a blog, but I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I just felt it wasn't what I necessarily should have been coming with, so for the book, but a lot of the material I feel is a core of what I expect to bring to the table when the book is ready, and as well as some new things that I've been sitting on that I feel is some of my best work. I mean, I would hope it is, if I'm putting a book out that I expect people to buy, but I've been sitting on some material that I feel is my best work, and it's just really humbling because writing is really a spiritual experience, because I can be sitting down one moment and I don't have a particular subject on my mind, and then out of nowhere the words just start coming to me, and I'll pull out my cell phone, I got my Windows phone, whatever, open up the Microsoft Word, and I'll just start typing away. I might be on a train or something. I might be just chilling on the couch or whatever, and I'll just type away a few words, and then it'll just be a constant stream, and over time, it's several pages. That's how a lot of my blogs come to me, where I even break them up into series, because it just keeps coming. So I look at writing as not just something you do to just put information out there. The process is in and of itself a spiritual process, because I don't say, "Oh, I want to write today, so I'm going to write about this." No, it just comes to me. It's literally coming in my head, and I'm putting it down as it comes through. So I'm just grateful to have that experience. Sometimes I'll be sitting down and a voice will be like, "Yo, Adika, Google this." You know what I mean? And I'm thinking for what? Why would I Google that? And then I'll Google it, and it'll lead me to something, which leads me to something else, which leads me to something else, which, I get a blog out of that. You know what I mean? And those are some of my most popular ones. You know what I mean? It's just having that trust in myself to know that whatever leads I'm getting, I don't have to understand why at the moment. I just need to follow that, and it's going to take me where it takes me. It's kind of not even kind of it's pretty much allowing your heart to be a true mind, and putting the mind in your brain, or the mind that your brain has access to, you kind of let that take a back seat to your heart, and let your heart just lead you and carry you. And I find that by doing that, it really takes you some interesting places. So I don't even know where I'm going sometimes with, some of the material that I start writing, but when I get to the end of the process, it's oh, okay, so this is what it is. And I'm actually learning while I'm writing. you know, so because I don't always start out with a thesis. It just comes to me and I bring it down. So, you know, that's like my meditation.